Hey guys, it's SJ, welcome round. Happy Baby Name Monday. Today's list is a brand new baby name list. You're going to get tons of inspiration, but it is all of my viewers' favourite baby names. So you're brave enough to share your names with me, which I know is a big deal. I know like some of you, I'm sure these are your second or third favourites. No one's giving away their top fave. And then I've compiled them into a list. So I've had about 700 messages. Everyone left about 6 names, so there's tons and tons of names I've sifted through, and then I've sorted them into things like my favourite vintage names, my favourites for girl and boys. I have done the boldest names and also then the names I've never heard before. And I'm going to do this in a two-parter, so the second one is going to be the most common names that came up, so names that are on multiple lists, so I'll do that as a second video. So do hit subscribe if you love all things baby names. This is the biggest community of baby name enthusiasts on YouTube. I'm SJ. I host every single week a new list, and yeah, let's get straight on with your ideas because this is lots of fun for me. So best vintage names, I've got everything written out, so sorry if I look down a little bit. So the best vintage names, there were some gorgeous ones. So Nat had an amazing name, Zella, which was actually her great-great-grand's name. So looking into her ancestry is a really good way of finding vintage names, of course. And Zella I absolutely love. So she thinks it has African roots as well. It actually means blessed, so it could, and I love the nickname Blessy anyway, so I think you could have a Zella who went by Blessy, linking that nickname. It's such a gorgeous one. Rachel had a long list of names, but the one I absolutely loved was Percy, and it was on a few of your name lists, and it's actually at number 347 already for boys here in the UK. So Percy is definitely having its revival, which a few years ago I knew a Percy and everyone was like, God, that's such a unique name, such an old-fashioned name. But she was just ahead of the curve. It is now back on trend at 347, the name Percy. Alba had Norma on her list, and that's one I picked out because I love it so much. I've got a real crush on the name Norma at the moment. Of course, it was Marilyn Monroe's name. She was Norma Jean, so it's kind of got 50s vibes, but also kind of very old-fashioned vibes. And there were only 4 babies called Norma last year, but I have seen it floating around. It's starting on Instagram. That's where all trends seem to start these days. It, of course, is the female equivalent of the name Norman, which was also to do with Norsemen, so I didn't know that. So it's kind of got like Scandinavian vibes if you're kind of got heritage that way, which was really interesting. But Norma, a wonderful, lovely vintage name. Katie had such a cute little pairing. She had Darcy and Dottie for girls, and I just love them. I love Dottie, and I think actually it's a vintage name that just sounds so on trend because obviously it's a nickname name with the IE. I even like Dot. And Darcy as well, is very Pride and Prejudice, and very ballerina with Darcy Bustle. But I really loved Darcy and Dottie together, so I popped them on. So my favourite girl names from all of your girl name lists. There's so many good girl names on here. This was like my new list on my iPhone. Get your iPhone out. So Eleanor, she is having a little girl and she's going to call her Delaney Lupin. So I don't know if that's Harry Potter vibes, but I really liked it. I was really fascinated by the name, so I looked at the meaning of it. It's actually an Irish surname, Delaney, which, you know, it makes perfect sense. It sounds like a surname, which is really trendy, but it actually has a kind of dark meaning, both of the names. So Delaney means child of dark defiance, which sounds quite dramatic, but I think it was taken from meaning of dark, and then it was a meaning of a river. It was an Irish river, and it kind of became that meaning for a child. And putting those two sounds together. And then Lupin means wolfish, which we would know from J.K. Rowling, or it's a flowering plant as well, so it's a lovely name. Great idea, Delaney Lupin. I thought that sounded so brilliant. She sounds like definitely a heroine of some sort of novel. May Riley and also Lily GR, they both had the name Scotty on their list for girls. I was like, that is such a cute name, Scotty, like Lottie, but Scotty. What do you think? I mean, it does have a little bit of dog vibes about it, but I think that with Lottie being so popular, and I love the name Scotland, we did place names a few weeks ago, and somebody was pointed out how Kourtney Kardashian's daughter's middle name is Scotland, and I was like, I love it. And then Scotty, just thought it was the most adorable nickname. It's kind of like Scout. It's kind of got that kind of quirkiness to it, but I think a little bit more wearable probably because of Lottie. So yeah, had to go on my list, Scotty. Jenna, I loved her girl names. Jenna, Belle, you had Joplin and Sutton. So Joplin and Sutton obviously could be for either boy or girl really, because they're like surname names as first name, which go really well for either, but obviously Janis Joplin, and probably why I love Joplin so much. I love Janis Joplin, and I just think it's such a pretty one, and with the Lynn ending, that is quite a feminine thing normally, Joplin. I think it works so well. It's really, really lovely. And Sutton I really liked as well. I think it just sounds really like really, really cool. If you were like a sort of a New York cool, you know, badass woman called Sutton, everyone would remember it. So I really love those ideas. I'd actually love to know where you came up with them. Emma had the name Liesel on her list, Emma Sefton. And Liesel, of course, is a character name from The Sound of Music, but I was really surprised to see that it's unranked at the moment. And those German names are getting so popular. We're really liking strong sounding women's girls' names. And she spelled it with the Z spelling, which I thought was really, really, really nice, Liesel. And I feel like a lot of people would, it's a unique name, but one that a lot of people would know how to say because of the musical. Don't we all watch The Sound of Music like on repeat all the time, like I do? Liesel, so yeah, lovely name. And then Heather Warren had the name Shelby for a girl, and I looked it up, and actually it's really on the rise. It's at number 458, and it's really having its spike. And I know there is Shelby as a viewer here, so hi Shelby as well. I just love the name. I think it's got that real southern charm to it, probably from what was the movie with Shelby in it, Julia Roberts, but I love it, and it's really interesting how popular that's becoming. And then Kate lately had the name Della on her list, and so did a couple of you, and I was really interested because Della has been really on my mind lately as well, so I've been thinking, gosh, I love that name. And like with Bella or Ella or even Zella, as we talked about earlier, it's really interesting that Della popped up a few times because it's been one that's really been out there. So is it a character in something? I don't know. Della actually is a German name, again meaning noble, but I often think about Adele as a sort of a very small valley. So say I live in the Dell, in the Dells, and it's kind of like a very small valley, pretty. So it's kind of got like a place vibe to it and a kind of nature vibe to it. And Adele the singer vibes to it, can't ignore that. But yeah, I absolutely loved all of those girl names. And then my favourite boy names on the list, there were some brilliant boy names. So Daisy Eve Powell had Wilson, and I just thought it was so lovely because we hear so many Wilburs and Wilfreds, and we don't get enough Wilsons, and it is such a cute one. He could be Sunny as a nickname. Wilson, I looked into the history, apparently originated from Viking settlers in Scotland. Apparently, according to the internet, which we know is never wrong. Sophie Bradbury and also Lauren E. both had the name Emery on their list, and I really liked it. It really stuck out to me, Emery, and I've not seen it before actually on any sort of list. It was interesting that you both had it, but slightly different ways. It's very gender neutral. There were about the same number of boys and girls called Emery over the last few years. That's about 4 or 5. It's kind of remained steady, really like down the bottom of the charts, but Emery, such a lovely one, especially for boys, I think, because it's got that, for girls it's obviously Emily vibes, but a bit different, but for boys it's kind of got a bit of a surname thing going for it, but also quite soft. So I was really fell for that name. River Shadow had a couple of my favourite names, Boaz, which is a Hebrew name, Boaz. I've had it on a name list before, and it's just such a great one. I thought originally it was just Boaz, like a one syllable, but it is the Boaz. And that's one that is gaining a bit of traction outside of the charts at the moment. And then Judah for a boy, which is the same. It's really, a lot of you mentioned the name Judah, which I love. I really, really, really like it. And I think as an alternative to a Jacob or a Noah, you could have a Boaz and a Judah. They'd be much cooler, wouldn't they? Melanie Trail had the name Oswald, which I just loved so much, Oswald. So again, like an alternative to an Oscar or something like that. You could have Oswald. Just works so well. It sounds very like a poet, isn't it? Poetic name, Oswald. And then Laura had the names, boy names, Laura Walker, Bodie, Atlas, Jacoby and Ames. And I love Jacoby and Ames so much, but all those 4 together, so it sounded like a really cool band. Bodie, Atlas, Jacoby and Ames, like really trendy names. And I think they're so 2020, they're so bang on what you guys love in boy names, which is something that's not too out there, but not too popular either. I think all of those hit that sweet spot pretty bang on. And then Hayley Andrew had August and Solomon, which I think are the same. They fall into that great category of kind of being trendy and sounding modern but not weird, like totally made up. Obviously Augustus has been a name for a very long time. Augie is getting popularity as a nickname, and Solomon I think just works really, really well for these modern days, Solomon. And I love the way that it looks. Yes, I loved all of those. And the last one's for Rose. Rose had so many names. Thank you, your names are amazing. All of these names, the full 600 plus comments you can read on my community tab. So you click subscribe, go along the top and it'll say videos, playlists, community, and then you can read them all and make sure you're there to join in the next one. But she had Ezekiel, which you guys know I'm crushing on hard at the moment. Shepherd with a nickname Shep, which I thought was such a cool little thing. Laszlo, which, yeah, very cool. And Azias. So yeah, great names. So that boy list is absolutely amazing. Like, well done, guys. Like, it's like my favourite boy name list ever. There would definitely be my names now on my notes pages. Not that I'm having any more babies, but if I were. So my never heard before names. So Shane Trevelyan, I think. Hi Shane. She was like, these are really weird. She had gorgeous names. So the one that really stuck out to me was named Rosenwin. I thought you guys might like that, Rosenwin. Because you could be Rose, but then your full name is Rosenwin. It's got very Gwendolyn vibes to it. I looked it up, there were 3 babies named Rosenwin in 2008, but it's the only time it's been enough to hit the charts, which was 3 that year. And well, hit the record books, I mean, so they don't record babies if it's like 3 or under. People who use that name, it doesn't make it onto the records. And it's actually a Cornish name, so if you love Cornwall, or you're Cornish, or you've got Cornish heritage, it means white rose, Rosenwin. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Shane. And then Hannah Butterworth had the Irish name Shark on her list. And I just never heard it before. And I was like, how interesting, because it sounds like shark, like the animal, a shark, a bit like Tig, the Irish name Shark. Yeah, it was really interesting to me. It doesn't rank either in the UK charts. So yeah, what an interesting name. Thank you for sending that one, Hannah. And then Ashlyn said, how about the name Elva? And that apparently Jamie Dornan have used the name Elva for his daughter. And I thought, how lovely. I've got an Evelina, and I was like, maybe she can be Elva as her nickname when she wants to, because it's so nice. So Elva actually means the number 11 in Swedish, so it might not work for us because half her family is Swedish, but Elva, but she could be Alva, which means elf, which is the A. Elva means bright or light. So yeah, I thought really nice. And with Evie being so popular and you kind of want something different, then Elva could be the one for you. And then Alex G had Zelmira, which means brilliant one. I'd never heard that, Zelmira, and it looks so pretty written down like that. And Madeline, she had the name Sinclair for girls, which I really liked, especially if you're trying to honour a Claire, or you love the name Claire, but are thinking, is it just really, really popular? There were lots of Claires in my year at school, so Sinclair is a really good idea. Maya had some really cool ideas for girls. So she had great names, Maya, all your names I loved, but she had Collins, which I thought was really trendy, like is there a cocktail called a Collins or something like that? Really lovely. Wilder, but for a girl. Sorrel, and Wesley May for a girl. Wesley May. I just thought those were such trendy names. You obviously kind of like the more masculine names for girls, or the sort of more gender neutral, but yeah, I loved them. Last lot is Brave and Bold. You guys who went for the really brave and bold names. Molly had the name Inca on her list, which I really loved. Peruvian community, the Inca Trail is very well known, Inca, and I can imagine that being a really, really easily worn name. She had Oka as well, like Oakley, but Oka, so I loved those. Janelle Nell had the name Naraya on her list, so I looked that up and it actually means shelter of man, and it was one of the 1,000 names of Vishnu, so Sanskrit name. Naraya, how would you say it? Naraya or Naraya? Probably depends on where you're from. You could probably say either way, but Naraya or Naraya. Naraya sounds pretty actually. Now I've said it a few times, but yeah, loved it. Beauty in the Books had the girl name Crescent. How beautiful, a girl named Crescent, just so lovely with the whole space theme, the lunas going around. Crescent is most of like people see the crescent of the moon is just such a beautiful symbol. Absolutely gorgeous as a name. Kia had the name Evanor rather than like Eleanor, and I loved it, Evanor. I just loved all these names so much. That was a really, really bold name. Sophia Grace had some brilliant ideas. She had Atlas and Arrow for boys, which are very bold and out there. For girls, she had Alaska, and Alaska is just, I'm seeing it so much. It is like following me around at the moment. So yeah, Alaska had to go on my list. Polaris she had as well, but I really like Alaska. And with Ed Sheeran using the baby name, is Antarctica. Alaska, yeah, very, very, very romantic and exotic, isn't it, Alaska? Ray Ray's had the name, suggested the name September, saying if you use April, May and all of those names, but not September. She thinks it's got a lovely ring to it, and I really agree. It's not ranked at the moment, but great, we are in the month of September. September's always like a difficult month because it's like the new year for mums, really, or the kids going back to school. But yeah, September, it just sounds really lovely. I think I could be called September and be quite happy with my name. Okay, Maria, you had some gorgeous names. I had Peregrine, nickname Pippin for boys, and I loved it. Peregrine, I think, again, it's one I've seen on a few lists, but not with the nickname Pippin, and I think that works so beautifully. I think that that's going to be a real fan out there somewhere for a Peregrine. If you're naming a baby right now, Pippin. I've always loved that as a nickname. I've never been able to find a long form that I like, so I think that works so well. And I'm going to end on some pairs that I absolutely loved, so names together. Anelda Pitts just had a little girl 2 months ago called Avalon Lily. Perfect name, isn't it? Avalon Lily. Britt has 2 children, Everett and Estelle, which go together so lovely. My 2 boys have got the same initial F, and they really like having the same initial. They really, really do. And they wanted their sister to have the same initial as well, but she doesn't. Ilona or Iona, not sure exactly how that is spelled. She had, for boys, I loved her combination, Dorian Reed, I really like that. I love Reed as a name. I had it on a list a couple of weeks ago. And Alda Rolf. Yeah, so cool, aren't they? You definitely want to hang out with Dorian and Alda, wouldn't you? And then JCan1181 had 4 name pairings, and she had Iwin Alora, Artemis Eloise. Artemis came up from so many of you. I'm going to do a whole, she's going to be featured on the next big popularity boom list that I'm going to do second. Beckett Atlas and Apollo Blake. And then there would be Winnie, Missy, Beck and Ollie. So I love the fact she's already got the 4 names sorted, middle names, front and middle, nicknames, done. She's ready. So those are my pairings, and then what I'm going to do next is film, either now or tomorrow, I will film the most popular names. So I've kept them a little bit secret. It's going to be this channel's viewers' favourite names. So yeah, what an amazing list to have. Well done, guys. Thank you so much as ever for joining in. Thank you so much for hitting subscribe and helping to support my channel. It means so much to me. And don't forget, you can hit the little notification bell so you'll get notified when that next video goes live. I'll be back with another list later on this week and next week. Lots of love, stay safe guys, and I'll see you soon. Bye.